In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Our today's topic with Dr. Moosavi is a very important one, and as they say, is a hot topic. It's about women's rights. First, to begin with, when you talk about Islam and rights of women, let's acknowledge that in many contemporary cultures around the globe, the practices that are being followed are not necessarily in line with the teachings of Islam. Many things that we see that are being practiced in different societies may not necessarily be the ones that we see as ideal. So women have not enough human rights in many cultures today. One example that is often quoted by an honorable lady in different sessions is that of her niece, 10 years old, who was forced, from a Muslim family, who was forced to get married to a 40-plus old man. She retaliated, she didn't agree, but the example was given that even Prophet Muhammad married a little girl. So on the basis of that pretext, she was forced to marry that man. And eventually, after having 4 kids, at the age of 25, or maybe that lady quotes 26, maybe 28, she herself is not sure about that. At the age of 25 to 28, she committed suicide. That's a really tragic event. But let's see how Dr. Mesbah would see that event. Dr. Mesbah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Thank you again for this controversial issues that you have raised, and it have been raised before. First of all, when we are going to talk about Islam, we have to refer to the authentic teachings of Islam and not to what have been practiced in the society or in the Muslim societies. About the case that you have mentioned about this respected lady that is crying that her niece was forced to get married when she was just only 10 years old. And then she's blaming on Islam. I want to say, for anyone who knows a little bit about the alphabetic of Islam, he or she would know that Islam is in absolute opposition to a forced marriage. A marriage in Islam is based on 2 foundations, 2 pillars, if I can say. One is the consent of the wife, and the second about the dowry that man is giving to the wife.
The marriage gift.
Yeah, the marriage gift. If the woman is not in consent, then the marriage would be of no validity. We have in the hadith even that a lady came to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, complaining that she was forced by her father to get married to someone that she was not interested in. And Prophet, according to that hadith, nullified the marriage. So that's the basic right of a woman to get married with someone that she is interested in, and not someone that her parents or her family were interested in. So,
so for this event, I was I think everybody would be moved by this narration, and the way it's narrated is in such a way, it's tragic. The way it's narrated, you really feel the brutality of those people who forced that girl into that relationship. So how would you, and that family was Muslim, no doubt, right? So how would you rate that? How do you compare if Islam is not in agreement with that?
If Islam is in opposition to that type of marriage, explicitly Islam is rejecting such a marriage, which was not with the approval and the consent of the wife or the girl, then that we should not blame, Islam. We should blame the family. If this lady was born and raised in an uneducated family, a non-civilized family that forcing their daughter, forcing just a child of 10 years old to get married with someone who was 40 plus, she should be regretful to have been raised in such a family and not to blame on Islam. Islam is in complete opposition to such kind of marriage. And that's something that one of the most fundamental basic teaching of Islam, that marriage is not going to occur except with two conditions. First, the consent of the wife or the bride, and the second about the dowry or the gift that man is going to give to the wife. And about the issue that the family mentions that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, got married with a child, that's completely lie. Is one of the biggest lie in the history of Islam. If you remember, Brother Sajid, if you remember, we had a video and we have talked about it before, that Aisha could not be a child when she got married to Prophet Muhammad.
Right.
Minimum age that Aisha could have on that time, maybe 20 years, 21, 22, 23, 25. And we have even explained that she was engaged with someone else. And when she converted to Islam, her family didn't accept to continue with that marriage. That's why, they proposed to Prophet Muhammad to accept her marriage. So I want to emphasize that, their reference to Prophet Muhammad's marriage was absolutely wrong. And again, if this lady is very upset, she should be upset with her family that she had such an uncivilized family, uneducated family, unfair family, as it's not the fault of Islam. If they forced this marriage, was something absolutely wrong.
Right. Another point that has come across is about ownership. I mean, I personally couldn't understand what was the issue around. So could you shed some, since we are talking on the topic of human rights, women rights. So what's the issue around ownership?
When we talk about the right for ownership, Islam from the beginning explicitly says that woman has right to own or to disown a property. And when Islam suggested that man at the time of marriage should give dowry or gift to the woman, it means that woman has this right to keep the dowry for herself and to spend it and to use it for any purpose that she wants. But unfortunately, in the history, it was not the case. It would be to our surprise, to surprise of some of our viewers, that even in the Western world, in Europe, until 1840 maybe, the right for ownership was not acknowledged for women. For example, in the Middle Age, according to English common law, which developed from the 12th century onward, all property which a wife held at the time of a marriage became the possession of her husband.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yeah. So if a woman had something, according to English common law, which was, in all Europe was practiced, all properties and all belongings of women would be the property and the possession of the husband. Until, according to my research, after 1 millennium after Islam, after 1 millennium, so almost 1,000 years after Islam acknowledged the right for women to own or to disown, then Europe comes in the 19th century when they proposed that, okay, woman has to have the right to own or to disown. Exactly, beginning in the 1840s.
So generally we can say that around 19th century.
Oh yes, around 19th century, United States and British Parliament began to pass this law that woman has to have right to own or to disown. And this is very shocking, So some people are accusing Islam to take away the right of women, whereas Islam 1,000 years before Europe acknowledged the right of women for.
So let me put that in perspective for those who are watching this. If you are a woman and were born, say 200 years ago in Europe or the Western world, you won't have the right to own anything. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the other hand, when you're married, you'll have to give everything to the husband, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you are a Muslim, whatever you own is yours.
Yes, and no one can force you to use your property or money to anyone else. So according to some laws, like, you know, in Europe, in medieval age, even before 200 years ago, in some circumstances, woman could own something, but this was until that she got married. So she could work and gain some money. So he had restricted ownership, right of ownership. As soon as she got married, on that time, it was her husband who got ownership of all the properties and all belongings of the woman. Right. Maybe this woman had got inherited from her father, for example. But when she got married, the husband would take away everything.
So how about inheritance, as you mentioned?
In Islam explicitly, Quran's talking about how someone who passed away should, you know, inherit. You know, the family would inherit both man and woman, both daughter and son and wife. So Islam explicitly talks about the right of people to inherit, whether male or female.
Right.
We have, for example, in Surah Nisa, in chapter Nisa, if you want, we have a verse which explicitly talks about different cases of, you know, someone who passed away and he had, for example, daughter, son, and how the money should be distributed.
Okay, so as you've mentioned that it took a long time. It took about 12 centuries or so for women in the modern world to start getting their basic rights that Islam gave to them in the 7th century, 6th or 7th century. So could you, when I try to think on this, then I would believe that that part of the world which gave some of the basic rights to women this late I just wonder how would they treat women at that time when Islam was revealed. So would you please shed some light on what was the state of women when Islam was revealed?
If you look at the history, even we talk about just, you know, the Arab who were, you know, around Prophet Muhammad, before Prophet got his mission to declare, you know, Islam and to call people toward monotheism. The Arabs felt a stigma to have a female daughter. The Quran mentioned that iswaddat wajhu, something like this, that when a man heard that his wife has given birth to a female baby, the father would feel, you know, his color would be changing, and he would feel shy and stigma. Why such kind of humiliation he had? And the Quran says these people used to bury their female daughters alive, and we have many stories in the Quran, stories in the history where the Arab used to bury their female daughters. And Quran in chapter Takwir, Surah Takwir mentioned وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنبٍ قُتِلَتْ. When it will be questioned on the day after why this innocent baby has been killed, why this innocent baby has been buried alive, just because she was a female. So on that time, woman was not considered as someone valuable and didn't have even equal respect and dignity. And it was not only Islam, it was not only Arabian Peninsula, even in the Europe. Exactly as I was studying in 7th century, I guess, when Islam began, around that time, the churches were talking about whether woman has a soul or not. And there was discussion sometimes in the church, I don't know about the exact time, that they were talking whether woman has a satanic soul or animal soul. So woman was not being considered a full human being. When I came to Canada 20 years ago, I looked at in $50 bill. I saw it written, woman is a person. It was shocking. $50 bill in Canadian bills written, woman is a person. What does it mean? When you think about it, because before that, just a few decades ago, or to be very optimistic, before
maybe a few centuries
ago, people had doubt whether woman is a human being or not, whether woman is a person, full person or not. So this issue was not only for Arabian society. That was a common thing that woman was not being considered as a full human beings.
So how did Islam change the perspective? Because it would have been, I can imagine that it would have been a very major change in people's perspective when Islam came over. So what did Islam do? How did Islam change the perspective?
Quran had very, very strong reaction and to this issue of humiliating women and killing and beating the female babies. The Quran says that if someone kills one person, he or she will be in hell forever. By such kind of verses, Quran could indicate to people, if you kill someone, then you will be in hell forever. So you have no right to kill your female baby. And on the other hand, Quran tries in different verses, in different chapters, to try to educate people and tell them that there is no difference between man and woman with regard to the humanity, the value of being human beings. Yes, there are some differences between man and woman. We do not deny it. But about the value of woman as a human being, there is no difference between man and woman. In different verses of the Quran, for example, Quran says, لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored all the children of Adam. It doesn't say male or female. Or in chapter Al Imran, I guess it's chapter 2 of Quran, maybe, or chapter 3 of Quran, verse I guess 95, if I don't make mistakes, says, إِنَّا لَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أُنْثَى. We are not going to waste the good deed of you, whether male or female. Or in chapter Ahzab, chapter Hujarat, Surah Hujarat says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. We have created you male or female, and we put you in different tribes, or let's say into different nationalities, so we can know each other. So the most honored person is the one who's most pious. So it doesn't talk about male or female. Or in different verses, the Quran says, min ayatihi an khalaqa lakum min anfusikum azwajan. One of the signs of God is that He has created from the same entity, from the same your partner, whether male or female. So according to Islam, we have both men and women have been created from the same entity, the same and equal value. I want to emphasize, Brother Sajid, that according to Islam and Quran, woman has not been created from the left bone of man. Woman has not been created for man. Woman has not created to serve man. Whereas in the Bible, we see different. First of all, in the Bible, try to, humiliate woman and says that woman has been created to serve man. And one more thing that I remember, it came across my mind to say, is that according to Quran, when Quran is talking about the story of Adam and Eve, Quran says that both of them made mistakes by eating from fruits that they weren't supposed to eat. Whereas the Bible tried to blame woman only and said that woman has tempted Adam to commit sin. And always woman has the blame. And even in Genesis, I guess I have the reference here. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, verse 14, 15, 16 is talking about this issue, even verse 12 and 13. Exactly in verse 16 says that because woman has made Adam to commit sin, then God is punishing woman and says, I make you to get pregnant and give delivery in pain. Mm-hmm. So God is degrading the woman, the Bible actually, by saying that your pregnancy is, and your pain of pregnancy is punishment for mm-hmm. your job, what you have done. And also it mentioned that because you have committed sin of tempting Adam to commit sin, your desire will be, your husband will rule you, and he will be your master. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 16 says, to the woman he said, I will intensify the pains of your childbearing in pain. Shall you bring forth children? Yet your heir shall be for your husband, and he shall be your master. So according to this verse, says that the husband will be master of the wife, and he will rule on the wife, just because wife has committed sin of tempting Adam. But we don't have such thing in the Quran. When Quran is talking about this issue, always blame both Adam and Eve equally. And even in one of the chapters of Quran, in chapter Taha, Surah Taha, it blaming only Adam and not Eve. It says, فَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ. Something like this. Adam committed that mistake. So, in the Quranic understanding of this issue, a woman is not to be blamed, but both man and woman. Anyway, in response to your question, you said how Islam is trying to change the perspective of.
Before you go ahead, let me ask. Some people say when they talk about women's rights, they also are intrigued by the fact that they think that Quran addresses men only. The tone of Quran linguistically, it only talks about men. Is that true?
No. Quran is an Arabic written of wahy or revelation. Revelation has come in Arabic language. In Arabic language, the common word is the male pronoun. For example, it's very interesting that, for example, in chapter Hujarat that I just mentioned, Quran is talking about both male and female. It says, "Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha." We have created you both male and female. When it says khalaqnakum, we have created you, use the pronoun male pronoun. We have created you. Is talking at least in both male and female, but using the male pronoun.
So it's actually a linguistic feature.
Yes. Yeah. Again, in the rest of ayat says, "Inna la nudhi'u ajra man amila salihan minkum." That doesn't say minkunna, because the Arabic language, the pronoun sometimes used as male pronoun, but it will be for both men and female.
And as you said that, I can recall that it's not limited to Arabic language. My Chinese friends who started to learn English, they tell me that they have a hard time learning the difference between he and she, because the Chinese language also does not have such a concept as English language has. So this is not, this shouldn't come to surprise to those who know a little bit of many of the other languages around the globe. Okay, so please, you gave a perspective of women in the light of Quran. How about hadith?
Hadith, yeah. Hadith or narration that we have from Prophet, we have many hadiths that try to change perspective of people with regard to woman and female born baby. For example, we have a hadith very well known that Prophet said, the blessed as-sa'idu, or the blessed is the one whose first baby is a female baby. And we have many of such hadiths. Or for example, we have today they say ladies first. When you want to go somewhere, they say ladies first. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 14th century ago, made this statement. He said, when you enter into your house and you have daughters and sons, if you have gifts, you have to give to your daughters first and then to the sons. And we have many, many other hadiths that, you know, I guess if we will be, you know, short of time if you want to mention all of the hadiths. There are many, many hadiths, you know, about how to treat women. And even I remember when I mentioned one hadith that Prophet says the angel Gabriel came to me and recommended me about woman in such a way that, you know, even I was about to think that maybe even saying off to wife would be, you know, forbidden. So we have many, many other hadiths that try to lift up the personality of woman and say that both man and woman are equal in their value with regard beside in the sight of God.
Right. So a next issue that, as you mentioned about the women's right of marriage, a related issue would be divorce. What is Islam's perspective on that?
With regard to the divorce, it's very complicated issues. You know, first of all, Islam doesn't want to make divorce something very easy. So people, if they change their mind immediately, they can go and ask for divorce. It's complicated, but Islam always gives this right from the beginning to the wife. At the time of marriage, the wife or the bride has this right to include this right to some extent in her marriage. We have in the Arabic they say shart aqd zemn aqd lazim, mean that a condition that could be part of the marriage contract. The lady can at the time of marriage say to her husband that I accept this marriage, I give my consent to this marriage, providing that you give me authority from now that I can act on my divorce if you are abusive, if you leave me and go somewhere else that I don't know, if you don't pay the expense of my life, if many, many conditions that, you know, the woman can make. So according to this law, which is approved by maybe all Muslim jurisprudence, woman can ask this right, the right of divorce, from the beginning. But because it's a very complicated issue and many other details, maybe in another session we can talk about.
Okay, so after a marriage happens, then a family is formed. In day-to-day proceedings of the family, another important aspect is the household work. Who does that? Who should do that?
Whereas in non-Muslim societies and in Europe, before maybe even a century ago, if I don't say even today, in contrast to all this, Western or even non-Muslims, understanding of this issue, Islam explicitly says from the beginning that woman has no obligations to do any of the chores at home. It is forbidden, it is haram. It is a big sin for a man to impose on his wife to do cleaning, cooking, doing chores at home, taking care of the baby, feeding the baby.
I'm sure that would come as a surprise to most people who think that Islam imposes all these things on the women, isn't it?
Yes, but 14 centuries ago, when we are talking about Islam, we are not talking about books that have been written in modern times. Just go and open the Quran and Hadith from 14 centuries ago. Explicitly, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, tried to lift up all this burden from the shoulder of the wife. So, in this society, even today, we hear that sometimes both men and women are working outside. When they come home, again, woman has to do all the chores at home, or cook and prepare food and do dishes. In Islam, none of these are obligation for woman. Woman has no obligations in marriage except for marital relationship, which is a mutual right and mutual obligation.
Right.
And one more thing that you may ask, for example, that, okay, if it is not obligation for woman to take care of the house, to take care of the baby, to change the baby, then whose responsibility? You may ask this question.
Yes, a national question, yes.
Yes, yeah. According to Islam, all of this is responsibility of man. Even when the mother gives birth to the baby, it is responsibility of man to take care of the baby from the first moment of the delivery. He has to take care of the baby, to feed him, to be a nurse for him, and to do all the, to change the diaper.
But how can a man be a nurse for the baby? I mean, it's only a woman who can breastfeed, right?
Now, that's a very critical question and critical point. Islam knows this, that man cannot feed the baby. But Islam wants man be always appreciative to his wife. When I cannot feed my baby, I beg my wife. I kiss her hands. I would ask her, could you please help me in this regard? So Islam knows that woman has a compassionate heart. She's not going to be indifferent, seeing that her baby is crying, and she says, I'm not going to do anything. No. Islam is raising kind people, merciful people with compassionate heart. But what is Islam going to do is that it's going to take this burden from the shoulder of the wife. She doesn't feel that she is obliged to do everything, and men are free to play soccer or today to watch TV. Islam wants the husband to be appreciative to his wife. When wife is doing something, I say, thank you. You are doing this voluntarily. There's one concept in sociology, sometimes they talk about unpaid work that, I guess Marxism is talking about. They said, we have unpaid work of woman was working at home, and men are working to make more money and more and more. And it's come to the time of divorce, and man got all the money and woman was left with nothing. So Marxism was talking about unpaid work of women at home. They think they are bringing something new. But Islam has talked about it before. Islam said, woman, if working at home, she can ask money for it. She can say, okay, I work at home, providing that if you are working outside, so income would be divided in two. Or woman can ask me more. So that, for the amount of time that I spend for your child, I want to be paid this amount of money. So Islam acknowledges the unpaid work that have been going around for centuries with regard to the woman.
So given the fact that the marital relationship, this question doesn't really fall under a topic, but the marital relationship is based on mutual love and affection. So the environment we see in many of the discussions that are done today in the West it looks like that the environment they're talking about is more like competitive environment, where everybody is asking for their rights, another person is not giving them, right? So they have to snatch the rights. So what is the environment that Islam supports within the house?
Islam is doing two jobs. One is about legalization and legal aspect. Islam is very strict, saying man has no right to impose on his wife to do any chores at home. That's very strict. On the other hand, Islam is trying to bring a very, very peaceful, creating very peaceful and lovely environment, encouraging both man and woman for forgiveness, for love, for mercy. Quran says, "Min ayati an khalaqa lakum min anfusikum azwajan litaskunu ilayha." God has created you from the same entity, from the same soul, if I can say, male and female, your partner, so you can get peace. And جَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and He put among you love and mercy. So no foundation of love is not going to occur without love and mercy. So what Islam is trying to say is that although woman's responsibility and obligation is not to take care of the house, but it is our moral responsibility to help each other. According to Islam, if a stranger needs my help, I must help him. What about if my wife asking me? What if the husband asking something? So there must be the environment of peace and love and merciness. When Quran says, "Vastabiqul khairat," you have to have race to do the good job. When it's time for cooking, man and woman should race which one is going to cook. I say, "I want to cook." She said, "No, I want to cook." When it's time for cleaning, I say, "I want to clean." She says, "No, I want to clean." So is doing any laundering, I will say, "I won't do it." She will say, "I won't do it." So there must be competition. Life must be competition of who is to do the job and to gain more thawab, more reward from God. So the environment in an Islamic family is not that woman is sitting there and said, "I'm not going to touch anything, you do everything, I'm just watching you." That's not the way that Islam train people. Islam doesn't want to create indifference people to the people's affections and needs. The environment that Islam is calling for is an environment of competition to do better job and more job to gain more reward from God.
So we can say that while this competition is there, but it's competition to serve other persons.
That's right.
And finally, very quickly, I would like if you can give us a hint about working outside. How does Islam look at that?
Working is not an obligation for women, because Islam tries to have financial security for women. Women should not have stress of working, paying the bills, paying the hydro, the gas, and preparing the food for the children. Islam wants the woman to feel peace. So because she is in peace, she can offering peace to the family. She can bring in peace and love and tranquility to the family. Because the philosophy of marriage is to get tranquility. The Quran says, لَتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. This marriage is to bring you this tranquility and peace. So woman has no obligation to work. But if she wants to, if she's volunteer to work, and if she's volunteering to share her income with her husband, it's up to her. But according to Islam, if she works, again, she does not have to share her income with her husband. But usually, as I told you, the environment between man and woman is not something that people are
So from an Islamic jurisprudence point of view, if the man works, and man has to work to support the family, he has to spend on wife, children, parents. But if the woman works,
she can keep for herself.
She can keep for herself. Okay, yeah. Good news for women.
Yeah. One thing that maybe we have to mention also about the right for education, if we have time.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. In Islam, from the beginning, Islam gives the right of education for women. And from the same time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, some ladies like Bibi Fatima Salamullah alayha is in position of answering people's questions and teaching people by answering their questions. The right of learning and studying has been approved by Islam, and we have in narrations from Prophet, I guess, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ وَمُسْلِمَةٍ. Learning, studying, and getting education is responsibility of both man and woman. Man and woman. Or when it says, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ مِنَ الْمَهْدِ إِلَى اللَّهْدِ. Seeking knowledge from the grave to the cradle.
From the cradle to the grave, yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry. From cradle to the grave. And it doesn't exclude women. Mm-hmm. So, for sure, getting knowledge and studying, in some cases and to some extent, it's obligatory for both man and woman, and in some part is voluntary for both male and female. Depend to their needs, depends needs of society. For example, the society is in need of female physicians. It is obligation, it is wajib for a lady who could be a physician to practice physician and to be in her job. Right. If a lady knows surgery and she's a surgeon, it is obligation if society is in need, in hospital people are in need of surgery, otherwise they may die and endanger their life. She must do this job. So let's go back to education. The right for education has been approved by Islam 14th century ago. But it's very interesting, Brother Sajid, to know that in Europe, women had no right to study. Mm-hmm. And just in 1870, women were allowed to study. In Sweden, in Denmark in 1875. In Great Britain, women were allowed to study in 1876. In
That's
France,
quite late.
In France, in 1880, women were allowed to study. In Norway, in 1884, women were allowed to study. And in United States, in 1821, the first women's university was found. But anyway, in 1840 something, United States and Britain start, to allow women to study. So women had no right, because even in the Bible we have, that I have mentioned in one of my speeches, that if woman has question, she has to ask her husband. Not she herself should not ask question, because they say woman has not been created in the image of God, but man. But in Islam, the right of study has been acknowledged 14th century ago. And now we come to Europe in 1870 or up, the right of woman for study will come to the place.
So it's very clear that Islam, in many respects, for women's rights, is at least 1,000 years ahead of the rest of the world in giving women rights. So I think we conclude our today's session at this point.
So you are talking about the right of woman for vote in another session, or you want to?
Yes, please, if you can give us a quick note, because we're running out of time.
Yes. Just one thing, that Islam from the beginning gives the right of woman to vote. For example, we have in the hadith that when Prophet wanted to appoint his successor, he asked people, all mu'minin and mu'minat, men and women, to give their allegiance for this appointment. And men were shaking hands by giving their allegiance. And because according to Islam, man and woman should not shake hands, so there was suggestion that they bring water in a bowl, and women put their hands in the water as a sign of, their approval and their vote for this appointment. So, but the right of vote in Europe just was in 20th century. Even, for example, with regard to Canada, in 1960, just almost 50 years ago, in 1960, Canada approved, election and the right of women for vote. And so, unfortunately, very recent, they came to the stage to give the full right for women. But Islam, 14 centuries ago, gives this right for women.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mesbah. We have tried to cover as many aspects as possible about women's rights in Islam. I hope that this would help clarify many of the ambiguities in our viewers' minds. So with this message that Islam, again, gave, as is evident from Dr. Mesbah's discussion, it gave rights to women that the rest of the world recognized at least 1,000 years later. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.